unbeknownst to me, this man is trying to rob these people. And in this apartment,
sounds like a great guy.
Yeah, right. And in this apartment, there's a sawed-off shotgun that I did not know was in there. Well, he locates it and he holds these people up with this sawed-off shotgun. Well, I'm like, oh no, I don't want any. I'm 15.
Holy shit.
At this point, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm out of here.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark Howley.
The Mark Howley Show. How did you do it and why?
I'm bringing here today two people that I'm really respectful of. They're coming from what's referred to as the D.A.D.S organization in Seattle called the faith-based nonprofit Divine Alternatives for D.A.D.S Services.
My name is Marvin Charles. Along with my wife, Jeanette Charles, we founded an organization called D.A.D.S, which stands for Divine Alternatives for D.A.D.S Services. We're located in Seattle, Washington, and Tacoma, Washington, and we just have a desire to see families do better. We were ones that started a family, and we were on drugs and alcohol, and it just created some chaos in our families that we didn't buy in for, but we did have the ability to change it.
Correct. And I think that's powerful. D.A.D.S is built around the belief that fathers are the cornerstone of a healthy family. We'll talk about that in more depth as we get along. But I think you two have a pretty fascinating story. Just the lifestyle that you led, the pain and suffering that you yourself led and your children. But can we touch on that a little bit before we get rolling into some of the happier aspects of this?
Yes. Would you like to go first, sweetheart?
No, dear. Please start.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm a humble woman.
Yeah, it was. I grew up in the foster care system, but I wasn't made aware of the foster care system in which I was placed in as an infant until I was 9 years old. My adopted mother passed away, which I was not aware she was my adopted mother. I thought it was my mother and that was my father. And we came home, my sister and I, from school one day, and she was laying on the couch and had been there for a couple of days, and then they rushed her off to the hospital, and we never saw her again. And to a 9-year-old son, that was kind of devastating, and
to say the least.
And so my aunt and uncle came in, and these were the aunt and uncle, that you dress up to go over to their house on Sundays, got plastic on the furniture and all that. You know what I mean?
The plastic seat covers, I remember those. Real comfy in the summer.
Right. But we were now living with them. They came in and said, that's not your mother, that's not your father. You guys belong to the state, and we're going to take you in. And that was devastating to me. You know what I mean?
What's that mean? You take me to...
well, see... I didn't know, but it meant what we were going to do is now live with them.
Yeah. Oh, I heard about that. That was a wonderful time in your life.
You know what I mean? And it would just brought a whole bunch of grief and stuff. I remember, so I had a bedroom. There was a fabulous house we lived in. I had chores I did, but I felt more like I was a butler. I didn't feel like, it was just crazy. There were rules and regs that I had never came across. And for example, I brought all my books home from school. I wore a Catholic uniform to a public school. So I
wore a Catholic uniform to a Catholic school.
That wasn't my case. And
Yeah.
And then we had to be home every day. After school, we had chores. I washed dishes 7 days, and my sister took over after that 7 days. And that's just the rotation it was. And we couldn't go outside and play with any of the kids in the community. And it was totally different from what my mom had did, right? And then they didn't tell me anything other than the fact that that's not your parents. And so I spent the next few years grieving about, well, where did I come from? Who am I? And all that whole thing. But don't ask any questions, Then there was this routine of punishment, right?
I read and heard about that, and it was just that's some
Yes.
cruel.
Yeah, crazy. And so it just was mind-boggling. I even get choked up when I think about it now. How did I survive that? Because I'm a father now. I have my own children. And some of that behavior leaked into my early parenting.
Yeah.
That's why fatherhood became such a climax for myself. It just was really difficult to kind of navigate those waters, to the point I felt like I was a nobody and I wanted to be somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so this was 1970. This was the time of Black movies surfacing.
Yeah.
You know, your
I know the
heroes
whole
come
thing.
off the screen. You know what I mean?
Motown. I remember that big time.
Exactly.
Now, Jeanette, how about you give us a little bit insight into, where you came from to mesh into this young man's life?
Thanks for asking, Mark. My story is as such. I was raised by a single father. My father took custody of me at 2 months old.
Okay.
I was born in Los Angeles. My mother, I was the fifth child to my mother, the baby. My father and her had their issues. And so one day he decided, I'm going to leave Los Angeles and go on back home to his hometown, which is Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
Well, as he packed the car, drove by my mother's house to say goodbye to me. When he came inside, my siblings were sitting on the couch watching cartoons. My mother wasn't in the house. And he picked me up out of the playpen to kiss me goodbye. As he picked me up, my diaper fell off, and he noticed that I had a red raw bottom, diaper rash, severely.
I had that. I mean, let's say this. I had little girls, and girls or boys. So, that's some pretty.
It was
They had
devastating.
care.
Yes.
They had care.
And so he looked at that. He looked at the kid sitting on the couch. He changed me. He wrapped me up in a blanket, picked me up, and told my siblings, "Tell your mother I got the baby." At that point, he made a conscious decision to just stay in Los Angeles, move back into his apartment, and continue working at the produce market where he was working for years prior to my birth. At that point, we stayed in Los Angeles about 3-4 more years, and he said, I got to get you back east so that you can meet my family. Well, in his travels to head that way, we stopped off in Seattle, Washington. I'm about 3, going on 4 years old. Well, he says to himself, I can't take this baby way across country because I need to be getting her in school. So he made that decision to find housing in the Rainier Vistas, the projects at that time. And he set up camp and gave me the home and the place and put me in school and the care that I needed as a young girl.
So you experienced love from him.
Most definitely. I want to say I was overpowered with love.
Well, that's a good feeling.
It was until I learned that I wanted to do something else as I got older.
Came a little around your teens.
I thought I knew something.
Oh, I had those.
I thought I knew something more than he knew. His
sure.
generation wasn't my generation. And of course, that's where the infighting came.
Every generation, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the fighting comes in, and at one point or another, you shift into a lifestyle that is not a good one.
Most definitely. I started hanging with the wrong crowd. I became a prostitute at 15. I got hooked on crack cocaine at 16. I even got pregnant at 15, but aborted that first child.
That must have been painful to think about.
Most definitely. That my child would be about 45 years old right now. But I found myself in the wrong company. One point, I was in an apartment babysitting with some wrong kind of people. And they had friends, and this gentleman comes into this apartment. The owners of the apartment are not there. I'm with the kids, and he brings some transients in with him. Unbeknownst to me, this man is trying to rob these people. And in this apartment,
Sounds like a great guy.
Yeah, right. And in this apartment, there's a sawed-off shotgun that I did not know was in there. Well, he locates it and he holds these people up with this sawed-off shotgun. Well, I'm like, oh no, I
How
don't
old
want
are you?
any. I'm 15.
Holy
I'm
shit.
at this point, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm out of here. So I leave the apartment, go down the stairs, and at the foot of the stairs, there's police. And so they walk me back upstairs and find out what's going on because the couple that's in there have called the police now.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that either. So I get back into the apartment and they question all of us and they take me to jail. That's the first time I went to jail for armed robbery. Armed because it was
You're in
sawed-off
big trouble,
shotgun.
and it's not yours.
It's not mine.
Okay.
They couldn't find my prints on it anywhere, but I still was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So some of my behaviors led to these devastating moments in my life.
Did you do time?
Oh yeah, I did 9 months in Echo Glen.
That's no fun.
And of course, my father still supported me in those bad decisions.
Really?
He stayed right there with me. He always came and saw me. He continued to give me good guidance. It was me that wasn't receiving it.
Well, most kids, I know with mine, they circled back.
Yeah.
Most of them in their mid-20s.
Here I
like
am.
the light went on.
Yep.
You know, like, oh my God.
Yep.
So now, this fellow is not living the best life.
No.
Okay, so
No.
let's hear about you were a pro football player. And
That's what attracted me to him, you know?
You're absolutely right. Like I said, it was 1970s, and I was this big L7 square. I'm Catholic uniform.
the Catholic uniform, I love that.
Yeah,
You know, how are you going to mesh it? You know,
you can't.
No, you can't. That's just way so far from cool.
Yes,
you can't get it any
exactly.
farther away.
I remember I came back. Folks were wearing afros then, and
Oh, yeah, I remember those. I remember those real well.
I came back from the barber shop because I just had him do it. My uncle sent me back to the barber shop. You get that stuff cut off.
I remember. I read
You know
that.
what I mean? You know, and so what happens is this: I plot and plan at my school, talking to a guidance counselor. I can't take this pressure. I'm 16 years old, and it's just too much pressure. What do I do? And so my guidance counselor told me, she said, you can't run away, because if you do, the police will arrest you and bring you right back. And so she suggested if you decide you want to leave, you should go to the youth center. And it was the best piece of advice that I had. I've been sitting on that advice for some time. So I lost my door key. And so I begged my sister, please leave me your key underneath the mat. Well, when my uncle came home, he stepped on the mat, found the key. So he was at the door waiting for me when I came in. And he said, listen, I want you to go across the street and get 2 bricks, and you bring them back, and you're going to crush them up and kneel in them. I had already did this punishment once before. And so when I went to go get the bricks, I just kept going.
What was the punishment?
The punishment was spread out a piece of newspaper, crush up the bricks, kneel in the bricks while you hold 2 other rocks over your head. And if you bend your
That's
elbows,
like medieval torture. You know, honestly, I read a lot of history.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't know. He wasn't medieval, but he carried something from that time. You know what I mean?
Was not a nice man.
No, and so I was scared of him. And he
So
was,
you hold them.
hold them over my head, and then what I couldn't do was let my elbows bend. So I was the first time he did this punishment, I was 11 years old. And so I held him as long as I could, and then I never did get hit with the strap. But this time I'm 16, and he's sending me through the same punishment. So I was dreading.
You see this coming.
Yes, right. So when he sent me out to go get him, I had a little sister, and he was sending her through the same thing. She was just 13 years old. And so the thing that caused me not to leave right away is because I was trying to beg her, come on, you got to come with me. I can't leave you here.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
And she just stood there crying. And I was like, listen, I can't hang. And so I just kissed her and told her I got to go.
And you're what, 16?
He's 16 years
Holy
old.
Shit.
So here's the dynamic.
Pardon my language.
Here's the dynamic, man. I ran all the way to the youth center. I got there and I told them what was going on in my home. So they locked me there. They called him and told him he's down here, so we have him. So there's no need to call the police or anything. And they set a court date for 3 days later. and they put me right in the middle of both of them, my aunt and my uncle.
No.
I was like, I was scared as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, man. You know what I mean?
I love that. That's good. I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
So they came in, and the judge asked my uncle, he said, did you do everything this kid said you did? And my uncle said, Your Honor, I believe if he lives in my household, he must abide by my rules. And the judge slammed the mallet down and said, I make this child a ward of the courts. I didn't have a clue what any of that means, other than the fact it meant I didn't have to go back to
So
it.
you'll take it.
Yes, no question. And so a couple days went by. I was still in the youth center. They called, a counselor came over to me and said, do you have a friend you can go live with? And I did. I have a friend. I didn't know if I could go live with him, but they called him. And then I called him, and he asked his mom, and he said, yeah. So what that meant was now the state could cut a check to his mom for letting me stay there, right? And so I was still in foster care. I was.
There's a wicked turn here in the money, but go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, well, listen. Here's the thing that was more wicked than anything, but I just didn't come to realize that then. And that is, I'm a kid, 16 years old, who grew up in a very controlled environment, right? I remember one time I asked my uncle, could I go outside and play? And he said, yeah, grab a book and go out into the back. The backyard was a patio, concrete flooring, a 6-foot-high fence with slats in it, so that was almost like doing prison time.
Yeah, I remember the wooden. I remember them exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So that was his idea of playing, and so I've been sheltered, and now I have all the freedom in the world. And you know what I started doing at the home I was in? There was my good friend Teddy and his nephew and 3 nieces, and so they used to laugh and make fun of me, but I didn't know anything. So all I would do is clean up behind them. You know what I mean? Wash the dishes, clean, vacuum. That's all I knew how to do.
Back to the uncle, just doing what he said.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I started getting a little looser, and then I met another friend, and we went to the movies, and I saw the movie Superfly.
Oh, I remember Superfly.
And I saw the Mac, and I now have nothing in my way to go and portray these images I saw on the big screen.
Yeah.
And I spent my life doing that for the next 20 years, right?
You know, you explain the clothing, you know, and I remember that. I was just on the outside of West Philly. So, you know, if you took the train in and they stopped at certain places, you'd be like, check these guys out. You know? Man, oh man, you know, they're bringing it, you know, and the girls too.
Yeah.
There used to be a Red Lobster. And it was just on the outskirts of Philly. And, you know, it would be packed on Sundays. So I remember somebody would say, hey, you know, you want to go to Red Robin? And I'd say, oh, no, it's you know, packed with black folks. And he said, oh, what do you got a problem with that? I said, no, the damn place is filled. You can't get a seat. You know, I don't care who's in there. You are not getting in. So anyway, so back to you. Now you've, I think you kind of loosened your, you know, just become a little more wide open to what the world is.
Yes. And I did. And so I concentrated on how I looked and how I carried myself, because now I'm in control of that, which I had never been.
You're Superfly. I mean?
Yes, exactly. And that was you know, that was my taste on things, right? And so the thing that my friend and I focused on is we wanted to be like those guys we saw in the movies. And I really did. I really did.
Every kid grabs onto some hero.
Exactly. And so I turned 18. I had a job. The job gave me a loan to buy a car, my first car. I had been walking all over the place. And
now you're moving.
Yeah. And so my first car was a 1969 Coupe de Ville. And I was like,
the Coupe de Ville.
Yeah, it was.
You're moving.
Yes. You know what I mean? I mean, for some reason, I believed that I had a status, you know.
Of course you did.
And here's the crazy part.
You got the suit and everything. You're in.
He's ready. Huh?
But here's the problem. I didn't have anybody to guide me and say, listen, if you make this choice, this is what's going to follow this choice. If you make this other choice, this is what's going to follow that. I thought I had all the choices. Now, why do I know that? Because I'm a father today, and I watch my kids make some of the choices that I made. You know what I mean? And so I spent the next 20 years being a gentleman of leisure, which is a soft way to say a pimp, right?
Gentleman of leisure. What you've told me thus far, I don't think you're playing golf. You know? just a suspicion.
Yeah. Well, that's what it was, and I took it seriously.
He took his job seriously.
I did. I took it seriously, and so and there was my first trip was to California. And California seemed like, San Francisco, Los Angeles, these seemed like places that embraced these kind of people.
A little bit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so...
they were flourishing in the, bad neighborhoods.
Exactly. Oakland, California. All of these things were people that looked like me that were doing things that were being paraded. And so there was no reason for me to feel bad about all of this stuff that I was doing. That kicked in later when I started having children and I wasn't providing the things that I needed to. And
pardon me, children with this young lady?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Actually, I have 8 children by 5 different women, right? And so
I knew that from playing basketball in West Philly. We would talk to a young kid and say, you would ask these just normal questions, and the answers were coming back like. It was sad, like not an identity with the father. The mother would say, he would say, "Oh, my mom," and you'd go through it. And to me, it was just like, I was just like appalled, because I wasn't raised in that environment at all.
Yes.
So to me, it was like, holy shit,
Here's what's crazy, Mark. So to the people you were talking to, that was normal.
Yeah. That
to
was
you,
community.
the listener, it was abnormal, right? So how do you bridge that gap? How do you? I came from that background where my uncle and aunt, they all had single family homes. They had 2 kids and married. But then I was thrust into this other way of living where there was no responsible father that was taking it. Just
you did what you wanted.
I'm not saying that it wasn't available, but I just was not connected to that aspect of it, right? And then all the people that I knew wasn't connected to that aspect. We were coming.
Pardon me, Jeanette, you're kind of, having not yet met him, you're kind of running on a parallel path.
You could say that. Yeah, now, don't shut the mics down when I say this, but he's 11 years older than me.
Get the hell out of here.
So while he's doing all that, I'm still trying to be a good child.
I said, look at that guy. Man, he's old.
No, we weren't parallel
11,
yet.
but parallel in the way...
The lifestyles.
The lifestyles.
Yeah, they became to be that, yes.
So you're running effectively... the same life, but in a different crowd and maybe a different part of the country.
Yes.
So let's go back to you. Now you've found this pretty nasty lifestyle, and it starts to develop.
Yes, and then 10, maybe 15 years in, I've been to the heights of my heights and filtered in there some lows and stuff, and so I'm now living in Billings, Montana, because I found out that they didn't expedite and I'm on the run and the lady I'm with there is on the run.
You got it all figured out. You got it all figured out. Montana, then Nevada, then, I know how to stay away.
Yeah, exactly. And so this particular lady was pregnant with my 3rd son. And so I figured if we get over here, we don't have to worry about, because she was on the run, I was on the run. And so we got there. And 3 years in, my son is 3 years old now, and the town has dried up. There's no more money. The mother gets upset with me, and she runs off, grabbed the baby, and runs back to California. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I'm trying to work my way back to California. It takes me a few months to get back there, but once I get back there, the doors in this town that I was the unofficial mayor of, the doors is closed now. Things are not happening.
Got to start it somewhere else.
Yes. And so you know what I did? I had to really take an assessment. Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to? You've got a lot of time. Most people don't have this kind of time where they're not either dead or in the penitentiary or something, right? And so I went and got a job.
And now you're in your mid-30s or something like that?
Yes, in my mid-30s. And I got a job. And the mother with my 3-year-old son, Now, I have 2 other sons that are a couple of years apart from him, living in the same area. But those mothers are pretty well tailor-made into what they were doing.
Yeah.
They were being single mothers and the whole 9 yards. And so this young kid of mine's, I asked the mother, can I take him with me? Because I know I got to leave. It's time for me to go. She said no. And I had met a young lady in one of my stops who lived in Spokane, Washington.
Okay,
So,
Spokane to
Yep.
Billings.
yep.
So between, just like driving down the road, you met her?
Actually, no, I was hooked up with some friends and then went to a bar one night and I met her there.
All right.
So pretty much the same dynamics. But anyway, so I talked to her when I was incarcerated. And I told her what my situation was. She said, well, come on up to Spokane. And I said, okay, I did it. And I came to Spokane. Then a week later, the mother shows up with my 3-year-old son.
Great.
Right. And then she just leaves him with me and takes it back off. Right.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
But at least you got your...
I do.
Yeah, why didn't you stay?
Yeah.
Come on, help me out here a little bit.
You know what? And that was my desire, but it didn't happen. And I think because her mother was coaching her, if you give the baby to him, he'll come back here. And the mother happened to be married to a man who was in prison for 20 years selling drugs, and he kind of left that trade to her. And then she had a number of daughters that would go and find guys that they would put that trade
Now,
in
let me
their
break
hand.
in here. So during this, well, this is 11 years, obviously, the difference in life. But are you running a roughly similar lifestyle?
I am. Yeah, I'm on the streets. I'm prostituting and using drugs. My so-called man turned me out to the streets and said, "This is what we'll do." And then there was a car. This is how he lured me. I was
But
being
this
very
guy,
naive.
you're naive. He's
Very
just
naive.
he's tricking you. He's working
Yeah.
you over.
Yeah. So I see this Lincoln, and Lincolns were my dream car. And there was a car.
Lincolns were the dream car for everybody.
That was my dream
My dad
car.
had a Lincoln. I just thought, my God.
You know those super long ones. They look like a bus.
like the Mark IV or whatever the hell they
No,
were.
bigger than that.
Yeah,
the long,
all right,
long ones.
whatever.
Right. But I saw one and I said, I want this car, because we were walking, me and him. And so he said, okay, well, let's start saving up for it. Well, of course, I'm selling myself, thinking he's saving the money. And all the time I find out he's going up into an apartment buying crack cocaine.
Shocking.
So that kind of just blew my mind, because I'm like, okay, now I'm being used. I did come to the light to understand I'm being used. So what I turned it into is, if that's what he's going to do with the money I'm making, I'm just going to keep doing it and keep the money.
Go direct, as they say.
I'll
You're not
use
going through Amazon anymore.
Exactly.
You're going direct.
Exactly. So I did that for a few years. And then, of course, my father had always taught me, go to school, get an education, and make something of yourself. I was looking for love in the wrong places, because my father smothered me with love.
Yeah,
and so
you
I'm
want it
trying
back.
I want to be free to love like I want to love, not like you want to love me. So found myself leaving him, putting myself back in school, business college. I stopped working the streets for a few years.
I read your education. You got quite a bit.
Well, I didn't finish it all, but I went through it.
You got started, and
I
I
did.
imagine a lot of people you left behind did.
I did. So that kind of pulled me off of the streets and put me back in them, and I started feeling better about
Well,
myself.
when you transitioned from A to B, you must have been in a different world. I mean, now you're not a girl in the streets. Now you're moving around with people who are getting an education.
Right.
Did they know what you had been?
Not all of them. A few of them I may have gotten befriended and shared my history and my story and why, because I did have one counselor that asked, what made you want to get into business? And I said, well, I've always had a love for administration. So office work, filing, typing, accounting, those kind of things have always intrigued me. So I then let them know what I had been in, and I was being on the streets. I knew how to save my money. I knew how to count my pennies and make it work. So that kind of transitioned from a bad thing into being able to use it into a good way. And that's what brought me in.
Congratulations. That's There's a small number of people who can make that. I'm just so you know, I've been in recovery for 37 years.
Oh, good for you.
When I was 26, my mother passed away, and actually on her deathbed, she asked me to don't live the life. Don't make me leave here and have to watch you live the life that so many in our family have lived. I'm from a big Irish Catholic family. And, you could throw a stone and find somebody who was, alcoholic. Not that a lot of families couldn't, but, Irish family, just all over. One of my cousins died of heroin overdose. So, there was no shortage of examples. And somehow the Lord touched me and said, in that world, you came to believe that power greater than yourself could restore you to sanity. I'd gone to Catholic school, so I was like, they said, do you believe in God? I said, no. And then they said, I love this question, they tricked me. Do you believe that somebody else believes? A good trick question. And I said, Father Flynn. And they said, let's start with that. We don't have to go any further. Believe somebody believes. And I did. And I remember thinking, damn, it's a trick question.
Greater power.
You got that thing.
Yeah.
So I've embarked on that life throughout my life and spent a lot of time. It's a sad story. You pick up, many are called, few are chosen.
There it is.
But you just keep slugging away.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that, Mark, because Marvin and I, too, sit here as friends of Bill W. Marvin is 27 years clean. I just realized on the 23rd of July, I have 27 years clean.
Wait a minute, 11 years different.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Time that out.
Let me tell you about that. That's a unique thing. So, after having my third son, what I did was I managed to leave Spokane and head to Seattle. Now, this is really unique. I remember as a young man, I left Seattle in January of 74. And it's now 94, January 2nd, and I'm returning back to Seattle, right?
Wow.
I've got a crack addiction long as my left leg, right? and I got a 3-year-old son in the back seat of my car, and I gotta figure out something to do. And so the father whose name I carry, Charles, when his wife died and we moved to our aunt and uncle's house, well, he's now in Seattle still. He's in his 80s, and I got this 3-year-old son that I want him to meet some parts of his grandfather or somebody I can claim as a grandfather. Yeah. So I get to Seattle, I move into his house with him. He allows me to do that. And I had an opportunity to do some work. So I'm working with my father, cutting grass, doing all these things I remember I did as a kid, right? And so then the bottom kind of falls out of that. Not that he wasn't there, but now I'm not bringing any money in. I'm using all his resources. So I called the young lady that was in Spokane I was staying with, and she had 2 daughters. They moved over here, and we just started playing house together. In the interim, I meet Jeanette. Jeanette lives next door to my sister, the little girl that I had left, and
the shining light comes in
exactly
from the clouds.
Exactly. And so it was a new thing for me. Jeanette was this responsible person, and she had a son. I had a son, and so we kind of got together.
As now you're plowing down, a life that has some future.
Yeah, I'm clean and sober at this time, and have.
So what drew you to him? Because he's living a pretty crappy life.
That's a good question, because it's interesting. I'm living in the apartment, like he said. His sister lives right down the hall, same floor, second floor in this apartment. I had met her when I moved in, and I'm going to church now. I'm going trying to keep my life straight, working for the school district. Got this 2-year-old son, and we're just trying to make my first apartment. And he comes into the building one day, and I'm downstairs at the mailbox. And he and another associate of his sister is going up the stairs. He gets to that second level before he opens the door. And he looks over the balcony and he says, I sure wish I was a piece of that mail. I'll never forget it. And I looked up at him and like, yeah, okay.
Listen to you with the tricky one. That is not like one that's going to bring the women in.
Right.
What the hell's going on here?
Well, who knew, though? Because months later, now I'm starting to slip back into my old ways. I'm using lightly, not heavily, but I'm starting
Wandering
to
back
get
into the middle.
And the gentleman that he went up the stairs with knew me and came to my apartment and said, "Hey, I want you to meet somebody." Well, I'm in there. I got my lights down, nice and low, music playing, baby is asleep. You know, this is how I like to relax.
Yeah. So,
and
for a young man, it's not a bad environment to walk into.
And then you go open my balcony and it's a nice, moonlight out there. So he comes in and he says, "Hi, I'm Marion's brother." And we talked for a minute. And he said, "This is nice. It's nice and comfortable and peaceful."
Could you
got off
suspect
from
that he was a
work.
druggie?
Not at all at that. He didn't look like
work.
it because this
Nice
is what
work.
he said. This is
We're
what
a
he
tricky
said.
group, aren't we? Those of us who get in trouble.
I just got off from work. And I said, what do you do? Well, he was cutting grass and so on. And he said, "Yeah, I just cut some lawns today and made a few hot bucks. And, you mind if I sit here with you and just have a glass and do one with you?" That's what we called it. Do one, take a bump with you. And I'm like, sure. So we did. And from that point on, something in my brain was like, "You like him?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I don't know him.
I can tell you right now.
I don't know
like
him. I don't know him." He left me his phone number and I pinned it up on my wall in the kitchen. And every time I would pass it, it was like he was calling my name. I'm like, "I don't know you. Why are you bothering me?" And then eventually I took him up on that phone call because there was a Cadillac he wanted to buy across the street.
There's
I use
love.
that as
There's
my
love.
excuse. And he said, "If that guy wants to sell the car, you call me and let me know." So I use that as a reason to call him. And from that point, it just started getting heavier and heavier and heavier.
So now the two of you morph into this lifestyle.
Yes.
And let me jump ahead. There's some prison time.
No, here's what.
Okay,
let me
okay.
help you there. So
That's before me.
What happens?
okay.
What happens is we get into a relationship, and it's a pretty steamy relationship. So she gets pregnant, right, with my daughter, Devotion, and so. But I have another baby 5 months before that.
I read that.
With another lady that
I think I
was
listened to that on your
to date.
audio.
To date.
Yeah.
And so one was born April 29th and one was born September 29th. And so...
Can't do that with one woman. That's not the way. Nature doesn't work that way, okay?
Not that
You
way.
got to get some lying going on to get that figured out.
right. Well,
Immaculate conception or something to that effect.
So we got through that part of it, and then she gets pregnant again a year and a half later, and now I'm rocking out of control. She's rocking out of control, and we need some help here.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I was raised and I lived a pretty crazy lifestyle, but I'm not crazy. And if we keep acting like this is going to go. And the state came in and took two of our kids, my youngest son and my daughter, my second daughter.
Now they come in, they must be alerted to what's going on, or they just walk in and see you, or how'd it go?
Here's what happened. So my daughter was born and they found drugs in her system.
Right.
So they were on. We were on their radar screen, right?
Yeah.
And they were really watching us. And I'm pushing against the prick. I'm not trying to be conformative to anything, right?
doesn't sound like it.
I'm here. I know what I am. But the more I spiraled out of control, the more it started being just unmanageable, right? So then when the
Sounded
second baby
unmanageable long before that.
Long before. Well, we didn't realize
But anyway,
that.
you start noticing it.
Yeah, I started noticing. And so when the second baby was born, we were in the house and folks were coming, knocking on the door every 10 minutes. And I'm trying to nurture this baby, which I have no clue of. Now, here's what happened. I heard Jeanette one time tell the story about her father and what he was to her.
And he was a good man.
Well, this is what proved it to me. When she told me this story, she said, I told my dad one day, "Daddy, I want a mommy." And they were in a truck riding, and she used to sit up underneath her father.
I remember that before the seatbelts.
Yeah, exactly.
My mom used to have us behind her shoulder standing.
Really?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
just to keep
you right here. You know, she's like, well, right here. Well, we lived, but anyway.
Yeah. So here's what happens. He says to her, "Listen, if I get you a mommy, here's what's going to happen. She's going to push you to the side, put herself next to me, and I don't ever want anything between me and you.
That's beautiful.
And I that touched me.
Yeah.
That touched me in a major way. And so as I'm nurturing this child of mine, now the state has 2 of my children. I managed to get my son out of town back to his family, which I was dreading to do. But I know I need to get some help, right? And so when I say help,
you realize this can't hold.
Yeah, we can't keep living like this.
And so what happens is I just picked the baby up one day. A guy comes in the house and says, hey, I want to use some drugs here. Where's your old lady at? And I'm like, I just get pissed, cussed everybody out, grabbed the baby. She was 7 months old. And some Pampers. And I walked out the door.
Took some Pampers.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah.
It's very responsible.
And some formula. And some formula.
That's a worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As that was at your instruction?
No, not at all. He was so frustrated. Like he said, he had been caring for her. So he knew to make the bottles and change her, and he had been spending that time. So this was the final straw. He said, we can't keep doing this.
No, and so, but I was desperate. I was really desperate. What do I do? And I didn't know what to do. I had no formal education or instruction to do. So I knew if I go up to the hospital and this thing raised in my head for about 3 or 4 months, I'll just leave her on the steps of the hospital. Somebody will do better than I am.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this baby any good now. The problem was when I got to the hospital, I couldn't let her go. I didn't realize fixing her formula, changing her diaper was bonding me with her for 7 months, right? I was building this bond. See, we knew she had drugs in her system because the day she went to the hospital, we were using, right? The problem was we went to another
There's
hospital.
some pain in that for you.
Totally.
Well,
We'll move on. Yeah.
I think that pain got resolved in this process, and here's what I mean. So when we knew she had drugs in her system when she went to the hospital, but she went to a different hospital. Had she would have went to the same hospital our other children were born in, they would have took that baby right then and there.
Boom.
Right. But because she went to the hospital, they didn't have no clue. They didn't look for that. So they gave her the baby and sent her home 2 days later.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but I'm remembering that. I'm thinking about all of that. So when I get to the hospital to leave the baby, and 7 months later, I can't do it. So I went to a women's shelter, and I asked them, "Listen, is there anything you could do for a man who's 40 plus years old with a 7-month-old baby?" And they told me, "No, there's nothing we could do. Your best bet is to take her to the CPS office." And that was the best I could. I didn't tell them I already had 2 kids in there, but I went off to the CPS office. It was the hardest thing I had to do. And the reason it was hard, because they already had 2 children of mine, and here I show up with another one. And they treated me like that when I first walked to the door. And then I got angry and got ready to get up and walk away. And a lady came out of the back and said, "Young man, how can I help you?" And I told her, I said, "Listen, we're raising this baby in an environment that's crack induced, and I just don't want to do that anymore. And I don't know what to do." I said, "I have 2 children here already. I'm wondering if I can put her with them, and then I go get myself together." And so the first thing she says to me was, "We're going to need the mother's permission." And I said, "So be it. Come on." So we got in her car. We drove to the apartment, and I walked in, and now I've been gone all day, right? Mm-hmm. And I told Jeanette, "We're giving this baby up." And she looked at me like I was crazy, but she signed the papers. Right.
You knew it too.
Yeah.
You knew it.
You know what I mean? She signed the papers, man. And so I go back out. I said, "You're going to go with me to go say goodbye to the baby?" She looked at me and said, "No." And then I went outside, put the baby in the car seat, and whispered in her ear that Daddy's going to go get his life together so we could be a family. And so I watched the car drive off. I turned around to go back into the apartment building, and the door was locked, and I couldn't get in. So I immediately became homeless right then and there.
When that happened, I felt so ashamed, as well as in the moment that he showed up at the house, I was high.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, y'all just hurry up and get out of here so I can get back to getting high. You know, so those decisions that I made to not open the door to let him back in, I was like, no, I want to just finish doing what I'm doing by myself. Wow. And that was selfish, but addiction
I've
is
seen the whole world.
thing.
I've seen all that.
It's
all
crazy.
That.
yeah. So 4 months later, I get a bed in a treatment center. I come by to see her, and I'm looking for a change that she'll respond to me differently, but I didn't see it. So I made a decision. I went back over to my oldest daughter's mother's house. I got high all night. She took me to the place. The van picked me up and drove me out to this treatment center. And I remember this. I remember this like it was yesterday. When I got off that van and I got interviewed at the treatment center by a treatment counselor, he said,
I had that done.
Did
Good
you?
interview. Yeah, it's a good interview.
Yeah. Well, this is what he told me. Scared the Jesus out of me. He said, there's 200 people on this campus. Only 5 of you will make it.
I say that, and every time I talk to a rehab, I talk to rehab Milam for like once a month for probably 3 years.
Wow.
It's one of the first things I say. I'm looking out in this room.
Yeah.
Mark my words. I got 100 people here.
Yeah.
I bet 10 won't stay there. 10 will not be here. Be a miracle. So,
That's true.
Well, that's when
That's
they told
a true
me that.
statistic.
yeah.
Yeah, when they told me that, I was like, man, I gotta be one.
Yeah.
That means my life is over. My kids' life is over. Because now they've become my meter. My children have become my meter now, you know? And I was like, man, I grew up in the foster care system. If I didn't like it, how could I subject them to the same thing?
Yeah.
You know, when I do meetings at the prison, and I'm always fascinated by
So I can't remember where we were at.
You were saying that you had, pardon me, let me get my thoughts together. You went to rehab. You didn't want your kids to go to, I think it was Child Protective Services.
Yeah.
So now
Okay.
let's start off with, you just start off and go into it.
So now I'm at the treatment center, and I gave them my youngest child, and they're bringing her out to me. And I'll never forget the first time they brought her. My kids, even my grandkids, I sing this little crazy song, Skidamarinky dink, skidamarinky doo, I love you. And so when she brought my baby, she was kind of standoffish to me. But I used to sing that song to her. And so I started singing that song. I'm in the treatment facility. I have a state agency person who's bringing the baby to me. And they saw me singing that song, and they seen her reaction to me. And the lady just looked at me like, wow, that's amazing. And I remember how that I was gratified by her responding to me that way.
Now, pardon, I know you, I want to circle back on this. Where are you at this time?
I'm still actively using.
You're still out there ripping.
I'm ripping.
All right, now back to you. The little baby responds.
Yes. And so that gave them courage to I think it gave them courage enough to say, well, there is a connection here. I saw with my own eyes. And so they would bring the baby once every couple of weeks. And then for some reason, it gave me some seniority on this treatment facility, because then they voted me out to be this head guy, and I just
so you're starting to feel good about yourself.
a little bit, right? A little bit, but I understand what I need to work on is this addiction. And so I got a guidance counselor, and then something else happened. He came to me and he said, what do you want to be? I said, I like cooking, so I think I'll be a cook. And he made this comment to me, what a waste. And I was like, wow.
Blunt.
Yeah,
Blunt.
I mean, and he was. And I'm like, well, so what does that mean? And I had that thing. And so all I knew is I'd been incarcerated over the years. You stay in jail for 45 days, 90 days, and then you rush back out, and then you're right back in the same thing. And I wanted to make sure that this didn't happen to me.
Stop that.
Yes. And so a friend of mine who I became very close to at the treatment facility said, hey, let's go to church. And I'm thinking, okay, what do I got to lose?
Yeah,
right?
check
what
that
I mean?
out.
Yeah. And so it took me like 3 Sundays to get into that church service. I don't know why. Every time I got to the door, I get cold feet and turn around and walk away. But this last
Who wants
time,
to go in there?
Yeah, exactly.
Who wants to go in there?
Something's going to happen.
So I went in there. I went in there finally, and then I saw something taking place, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew I needed it. Well, later on, I realized it was an altar call. and I saw these people crying and weeping. So I said, I don't know what it is, but that's what I need. I knew I needed that altar call. So I went in there. I sat up front. I can't even tell you what the sermon was. I was just anticipating that altar call. So I got up there, and the man asked me, he said, do you want a personal relationship with Jesus Christ? And I said, yeah, I need it. I need something that guide me. I didn't realize it, but my mother taught me when I was 7 years old how to pray. And that's all I held on to. So even in the midst of my craziness, I would always say the Lord's Prayer. I didn't know if it was doing me. You know what I mean? I didn't know if it was doing me any good.
I still say, when I'm in a steamer, because I love steamers, it gets hot. I'll say, okay, I'm going to say 10 Our Fathers and 10 Serenity Prayers, and I'll go through them. And I'll go real fast at first.
Right.
Then I slow down and go, okay, you read every word in that Our Father. It's got there's some serious asking there.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Amen.
Be careful what you ask for.
I know, but I would listen to it, and I'm not involved in an institutional religion, but I'm Christian, top to bottom.
Amen.
Yeah.
But now let me. I hate to interrupt you, but I now tell me what happens. What causes you to stop your life, and what makes you go, something's wrong?
Well, I knew it was wrong from the beginning. I just
stopping, it's the problem.
Right, stopping was the problem. Well, as the story goes for him, my Christian walk started at 7 years old. I was going to Sunday school in and out, going back to school, going to grab kids to come back to church with me. They called me their little missionary. So it was rooted in me to do what was right. As I got older, 12, 13, 14, 15, I started to want to follow the ways of the world and the things of my friends, going to the bumper shoot, hanging out, doing other stuff instead of going to church. So as I fell away, the root of what was in me kept bubbling up to the surface. I just had so much junk on top of it, it couldn't get through.
Under there.
So as these situations started happening, I'm losing my kids, I'm losing my job, I'm about to get evicted, phones off, lights off, and nothing is coming my way anymore. I literally find myself sitting on my living room floor with the Bible open, at war with a pipe in the other hand. So I'm like, Lord, take this away from me. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so, praise God, late few years, I get myself back into treatment 90 days after he does. There's a piece in there that he can share how he came, and I'm sitting on the couch, laid out, trying to cook because my lights are off, and I see him, I jump into his arms, he's clean and sober. So, and from there, we just go on and start to rebuild our life, rebuild our family, bring our children home. I'm going fast because I know we got to move on.
Okay.
But that happened in that moment. Now, mind you, let me say this. This was my 5th attempt at becoming clean and sober.
That's not. I've heard that 1,000 times.
My 5th attempt. I've had 2 years, 90 days,
2 years,
9 months, 12 months, and then this time 27 years. So it's been a journey for me. He came in about 3 times into my recovery scene. First time was I had my kids in treatment with me. I worked through that. That kind of got heavy. He hadn't had treatment yet and said, come on, you can do this one more time with me. You can, it's a willpower, it's a mind over matter thing. Well, him not understanding what recovery is.
Nobody does.
It's not a mind over matter thing. It really is a day-to-day walk, and you have to practice it and not lose sight of what you're trying to accomplish every day and not fall victim back into your old behaviors. So at any rate, I kept trying to fight his feeling because I loved him, but fight this feeling of I got to stay clean and sober. I just got my kids back. I got to keep moving forward. Well, like everybody else knows, an addict will get you high before you get them clean.
Absolutely.
So that's what happened. And then we fell back into that trait. But here we are, long story short, 27 years clean. After me jumping into his arms, I went to his treatment facility where he was, lived clean and sober house, stayed there. A good friend of his drove me to another recovery. What's his name?
Yeah, he passed away.
He passed away, but took me to breakfast one morning, and they told him, I want to get myself back into detox, because, of course, you had to start with detox before you go to treatment. So he helped me get back into detox, and I went off to treatment July 23rd.
So now we'll jump ahead a little bit.
Okay.
Because we want to get to the meat of
Well,
this.
let me
Go
say
ahead.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
This will help us get to the meat faster. So I come out of treatment. I'm come out of treatment. I'm looking for her. I'm finding her on the corner, just doing all kind of stuff. And so I'm back at home at my own little humble little abode. And when I get led to Christ, I prayed this prayer: Lord, help me put my family back together again. Right. And so he does it in ways that was really inconspicuous for me. Okay,
Snuck up on you.
yeah, you know what I mean. But I'm wondering why she won't get clean. How come she's not doing this? And I hear the voice of the Lord tell me, Marvin, I love her just as much as I love you, but I can't do nothing for her because you won't get out the way. And that was like stabbing me in the heart and turning it. But I want to believe this person that I just starting to build this relationship with, meaning Christ. And so, okay, does that mean I got to stay out of her way? So I stayed out of her way. And then I wake up one morning, he says, go ask her if she wants something to eat. So I go to her house. I'm happy. I go to her house. I get there. I knock on the door, and she's 90 pounds soaking wet. She's got a frozen Cornish hen on a hibachi pot. She's trying to, and they ain't even got lighters.
Living the good life. Living the good life.
Right.
Healthy as can be.
Gourmet meals.
Right.
Yeah.
The
And
90 pounds wasn't
90
because you were at the
pounds.
gym.
Yeah,
Not at all.
No. So we get her in the treatment. She told you about that part. She gets in, and I try to be a big support for her. But the plan is the kids now are in custody of the state, and we have to start presenting ourselves to the courts. And so she's clean enough now. We both show up at the court on their kids' first hearing, and we get there, and they just kind of rip us a new one. You know what I mean? And they got all the rights to do that based on our track record, right? And so the caseworker that they assigned to us says to me after the court, well, we have to come back in court 30 days, and you don't have any chance with getting the kids because you're a man, and this is her 5th rodeo, so you guys might have to just... And then she says this, if you were married, it'd be a little different.
Bingo.
So Jeanette and I wait till she leaves, and then I walk up to her and said, listen, I don't know anything about this, but if you marry me, I will do everything in my power to make you the happiest woman in the world. And she said yes. And then she goes back off to treatment, right? Because we're now still, I go back. So I have the pastor, the person that led me to the Lord. I asked him, what did he think about me and Jeanette getting married? He said, well, you guys have history together, so I don't see a whole lot, and you have children together. So I started working towards that. He gave me the money to go get the marriage license, and then my best friend, she meets me at my clean and sober house. He picks us up. Now, it's supposed to be 2 witnesses, he and his wife, but his wife can't make it that day. So we drive over to the Bellevue courthouse, and I'm literally in the parking lot looking for a 4th witness. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll give you $50.
Yeah,
Just come
right.
on in here.
Just come
we did it. We did it. We got married. We went back to court, told the courts we were man and wife. And so the caseworker looked at me like, what did you do that for? Right. But that was the beginning of our journey. And so 6 months later, to a year and a half later, the kids come home. We find a place to live. We began to put our life together as a family. I'm clueless to how we do this, right? Well, then a year and a half later, an article comes out. I get a call from a lady who says, your mother's been looking for you for 42 and a half years, and guess what? She lives right down the street from you. We go, and she picked the kids up for our first visit home. We all go over. I meet my mother for the first time. I asked her about my dad. She says, I haven't talked to him in 40 years, but I found him in California living. And so we make this humongous reunion. I'm talking about, we do it on Good Morning America.
I know. I heard that.
Yeah. And we do all that thing. So this is my prayer being answered. Only it went above and beyond what I thought it was. And so Jeanette and I, the kids and everybody, I'm looking at this, my kids' grandparents and all of that. And so after the dust settled, Jeanette and I sit down in our living room and said, there were people we got high with, we did time with, we did crime with.
Yep.
How do we help them go through what we did? We're not the only
So
family.
now, just so we get into it, now we're I hear a shift in the conversation.
yeah.
Yes.
Now we're moving
Towards dads.
to the reason I called you in. And I love your story, and I really needed it. But let's get at it, okay?
Hey, listen, we sat there and we realized that all I wanted to do was go to work. Jeanette was really uncomfortable with not being able to have a job, but we couldn't afford daycare. So
Yeah.
we had to figure out something
we have
to
4
do.
kids at home.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she decided, okay, I'll stay home and work with the kids, and then you go to work. And then I was an installer on the Microsoft campus. So I built an office. So I built her a little office in our home. And this is really funny how this happens, but I was proud to put my wife's name on my bank account. Okay. I was proud to do that.
That might be a bad move.
It was a bad move.
It
was a
was.
bad move. And
Yeah.
here's why. Because child support, a lot of folks didn't know. And these were the things that we were learning that we wanted to share with the community. But because when your children go to foster care, the state charges that family a child support order.
Yeah.
Right? How does it go, sweetie?
They charge the non-custodial parent child support because what
Non-custodial, that being
that means the parent that lost the children.
okay.
So they become the non-custodial parent. And then what child support does is then puts an order on that parent to pay child support because now the children are in the state's care and they're
Okay.
spending money to take care. They put them in foster care. They're paying that person to care for your children. So a child support order gets started on that parent.
So what happens was,
And you'll explain. I don't know what the hell a child support order, but let's get into
so
that.
what happens is we go to the bank to pay our bills, and because her name is on my account, they snatch all the money out the account. Child support does, right? Because the children were in foster care, the state pays the foster family to take care of the children, and then the state wants to recoup their money back,
Right.
and that's what child support gives them an order to do, to recoup their money back.
Let's
Right.
get water out of a rock.
Yeah,
Come on.
I mean,
exactly.
this is
Come
a
on.
loop.
Exactly.
You know.
And so, but I watched my wife do something that I thought was amazing. So because she knows what happens, she goes to child support and her caseworker and says, listen, we don't have any money. That's not my money. My husband, I can prove to you that he goes to work every day. He gets his paycheck. He puts it in the bank. So that's not my money. That's
So
money.
your admin business knowledge starts you're like,
kicking
okay,
in.
I know how to
Right.
fight this through.
Right. And
Great.
she does. They put the money back in the bank account.
Really?
Yeah.
I said
Well,
the
because
same
it
thing.
was not my money. And what it was child support. If you owe a debt, if you owe money, they have the right to offset your taxes, your license, and your bank accounts to get the money that's owed. Well, because my name was on his bank account, I was not the primary, though. I was able to let them know that is not my bank account. I am not depositing money into that account. That is all his money, and he's the primary. And so what they had me do was show bank statements to show how money was going into the bank. Well, being his checks were direct deposit, it was the only thing going in was those direct deposit checks. So as proof that I'm not adding money into that account, they released that account and gave him his money
Who
back.
the hell? I mean, imagine you guys. I mean, and there's people all over the street. You know, holy shit. Pardon my, I said I wouldn't use that language, but
Yeah.
Mama Mia, I couldn't figure that out, and I ran a
Right.
business for 20 years.
Exactly.
You know?
And so what we saw there was an opportunity. How many other people was this happening to?
A lot.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so what my wife would do is sit at home, and we literally on the weekends would go out and look for people who were running across these same issues, right? And then we would just give them access to coming by our house between the hours of 10 and 2 because now the kids are off to school. Right? Get up in the morning, get the kids ready to school. Now from 10 to 2, she's that thing, and then 2, she starts to get ready to receive the kids back, right? I'm at work. Well, our landlord lived next door to us. And literally, when this thing started happening, Jeanette started seeing clients, and these folks were driving up. And in front of our house, you could park 2 cars side by side.
By seeing a client, you mean trying to figure out how they can get from point A to B? And
Correct.
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 Yeah, okay.
Well, it was a twofold need going on. The fathers would show up because one, they want to see their kids. Well, the biggest blockage they felt was child support. Because I owe child support, I can't see my kid. Well, that's a myth because they don't even work together. Child support is an independent entity. Court visitation is a whole separate entity. They do not mesh. They're separate. But the myth on the street and
Yes.
everything else is
Yes.
because I don't pay my child support, I can't
I'm
see
out.
my
I'm
kid.
out.
So we had to educate and show them, no, we're going to deal with this child support. We're not going to not let you have to be responsible for your responsibility. But at the same token, on this side, we're going to work on getting you into a position where you can see your kids and still financially manage your life. Because child support would take so much of this individual's money, they felt like they couldn't do
You're getting
anything
sucked
if
back
they
down
got
the
their
hole.
kids. Right. So we started to show them how to navigate, is what we call it, from working with the courts and child support system to where your situation meshes and you're in the lives of your children.
So when do you take on the name Dads?
Well, at that time after that news article, we said, how do we do this? And Jeanette came up with, I said dads, and so we had to figure out something that fit with dads, and it was divine, which we both honored that, alternatives for the A, and dad's services, which was the D and the S. And it
Came
sounded
out well.
very good. And yeah, it worked out. So much so, there's in the child support, and we work with child support. I mean, to me, I felt like that was the best deal that we ever got, because child support, we could call them, they would answer the phone, and Jeanette would talk to somebody administratively that would help these fathers get through the maze that was, right? And when she started showing guys that she could get them through that maze, they start having allegiance to us. There was two things that created the allegiance from our client base. First, we don't charge them anything. We don't charge anything for our services. And why we stuck to that guns, because when we were building our family together, we didn't have any money. We couldn't
you
do
were
anything.
going the other way.
Exactly. And so we never forgot that. And then there's an allegiance that come with that. And so being able to watch a father reinvent himself in the lives of his children, we always say, guys, you got to step up. You can't run from stepping up, because one day your child's going to come knock on your door. And if you don't answer that door properly, then the first thing the child's going to do is throw his hand. Mom said you was going to be that. Yeah, exactly. So let's reinvent that. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. Well, here's what happened. The landlord lived next door, and so many guys were pulling up to our house. Our landlord thought we were literally selling drugs. Right?
Shocking.
Yeah.
Because Marvin would be gone to work,
Yeah.
and here it is, I'm at home, my kids are gone off to school, and I'm receiving clients come to the house. So it's like, what's going on over there?
She ain't doing anything good in there. I can promise you.
And so we got a small grant, and so we went and found a little storefront office, and we moved out of our house to the little storefront offices.
On Rainier Avenue.
And we stayed there for 19 years, and it just
Really?
built and built and built and built. And then I started getting opportunities across country to go and speak and share our what we did and what we were doing. I remember being at a child support conference in Los Angeles, California, and I was a keynote speaker. And then I talked like we're doing now about how Jeanette and I walked together. And there was a line of child support workers standing in front of Jeanette, making sure she got their cards. So if there's any way that we can help you do the work to do, because that was unusual to find that somebody from the community who've had those experiences within the community is now reaching outside of the community to help other people. That was just amazing.
And what
So
was-
now you're in this little place, and now are you just getting calls after calls from these people who want help?
It was all word of mouth. Our whole business program built itself from word of mouth. It started with Marvin's uncle. Once he was reunified with his mom, he found out he had an uncle that he went to school with, and his nephew from his sister, her son. So those two, we walked with them through some of their scenarios, and it worked out beautifully, which gave us the inclination this is going to be powerful. If we can get this information to more people, we can change how they relate to child support, how they relate to courts, and hopefully the end goal will be these children can be with their father in healthy ways.
Get going. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you had a good father. I mean, I had a father that brought the
I know
lumber.
what it means.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
he had no time. If you didn't do what my dad wanted, oof.
Yeah. So we have learned that our people are perishing for lack of knowledge. if they know how to work with the system, they will work with the system and know that the system is not always against them. It's just you don't address it appropriately
Government's
to get your
confusing
needs
as hell.
met.
Yeah, it is. But we
But
felt
we've
like
learned.
we felt like there was an opportunity for us to be go-betweens, right? Between the system and the community.
Well, you are that.
Yes,
I
exactly.
mean, that's and now you're under the name Dads, and this thing's kicking it, and you're out there talking and getting dragged around the country. Which, by the way, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
I did a lot of public speaking.
Okay.
As much as it's work, it gets you off.
Yes, it does.
There's
It
an
does.
adrenaline kick in
No
there. That,
question.
you're just
No question.
A friend of mine said, being a singer, being a speaker, you can have a little dash of narcissism. It's okay. Just a little bit of dash.
Well.
You're getting up there in front of people and being the center of it all. Yeah,
right,
so nothing wrong with it if you're helping people.
Yeah, amen.
So you got it up, you got it going. Okay, now what was I looking for here? There's also now 2 locations.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And now, so now we got 1. We're jumping along, presuming you get your grants. I presume now you're drawing attention from other people.
Yes.
And there's a name of a guy. I remember you said his name. Is it Fisher? No, there was a guy.
Levi Fisher.
Levi Fisher. That's it. Yeah.
Who worked for the government. And so Jenna and I found ourselves sitting in front of Gary Locke in Olympia one time.
I listened to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And you know what made me know that you were in the program? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Amen.
I wrote that down. I'm like, whoa, I got him.
Yes.
So Gary made a comment, and there was somebody who was the head of Region 10, Administration for Children and Families, the ACF. And Governor Locke was there, and he said, listen, if I could find out what Marvin and Jeanette's doing, I'd make it statewide. And this government official heard that. So he came outside of the meeting when the meeting was over, and he walked up to me and handed me a business card and said, contact me. Well, I didn't know him from a can of paint. You know what I mean? I didn't know who he was. Well, then
He's going to ask you for money.
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, so Levi showed up at my house, and he said, man, my boss said for you to call him. How come you didn't call him? I said, who's your boss? I didn't know. Well, I didn't. The highest government official we knew was the head of child support. You know what I'm saying? That was it. And we didn't know if we could be comfortable with that. Well, Levi was a federal child support person. And so he came into our home. He educated us. He took us across country with him, and he gave us. And then he introduced us to people along the way from the federal to the state. And there was times I'd show up at places and they would say, well, you don't have to worry about money. You got Levi, who was the head of, was the fatherhood person for.
Turn that spigot on.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it just began to educate Jeanette and I in ways that we never thought was possible. And anytime a dignitary came into the state or came into Seattle, the ACF would help us, would ask us, can we bring them to dads? I remember when Dr. Wade Horn came. I was back in D.C. speaking, and I walked up to him and I said, I hear you're going to be in Seattle. Would you mind coming by our humble abode? Well, Dr. Horn started an agency called the National Fatherhood Initiative.
Sounds like you got some commonality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's what he said. He said, I started the same way. So he stopped in Seattle, stopped at our building. I grabbed a few community members, and he was only supposed to be there 20 minutes. He stayed 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things like that let us know we were on the right track.
Yeah,
And so it just encouraged us, man.
I think to say, what is your why? I think if they don't figure that out by now, the listener, then they should just hang up early.
Yeah.
Hang up before it starts.
Yeah.
So what I want to talk. Here's what I'm going to
There
talk
you
about.
go.
That you are, unabashed, wide open about your Christianity and your faith. We don't have to go into that great depth, but I thought that was cool.
Okay.
Because in today's age, a lot of people are
Yes.
tiptoeing around,
Yes.
and you're just coming right at it.
Yes. Yes.
So now you've been moving all around the country. The brains of the operation is over here.
Yep.
She's doing the drive, which I
Yep.
was reading it. I saw first, second. I thought, okay, I got it. He's out there blabbering, and you're in the background doing all the smart
Exactly.
work.
Keeping this pieces rolling.
Yeah. Then you need a tag team, and I noticed that the organization has got 10 people now.
Yes.
Yes.
I know, and I read each one of them, and the board has 7.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, actually, we just added 3
3
more
more.
board
Yeah.
members.
Yeah,
Right.
and I read down that, and I was like, wow. So there's, I think one of the guys is like, pardon me, I'm not just pulling one of them out, investment banker, you know.
Yes.
So those guys tend to know a little bit about cash, you know. So, and I don't know how that may or may not help you, but I was just impressed. This is no longer just
A
2
mom and
people.
pop, huh?
No. Now you got, because I mean I know articles of incorporation and
Yeah.
all this stuff. You have
Yeah.
all these laws, and
Yep.
something's going right, something's going wrong. You know that you can say, oh no, the board reviewed it, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
So, congratulations to you, because that takes a little thinking.
Yes, it
You know,
does.
you really have to. When I had to do it, it was like, oh, I'm big enough business now that now you have to have these formal things.
Yes.
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 And they can't, some of them aren't cheap.
No, they're not.
'Cause you gotta go out and get-
bookkeepers, audits. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
but you
not
got to
cheap.
do it.
Yes.
Gotta
If you
do
want
it.
to play the game, play the game.
That's right.
You know? And so now we now have this D.A.D.S is officially on the map. And it's at that point really one of the things that turned me towards you and wanted to get you on so much is that I just love this, that your goals, okay? We have a positive impact on the epidemic of fatherlessness in America. We restore families by improving absent fathers to be responsible family leaders. We stop the cycle. Oh, okay, I'll start over again, okay? Good Lord, it's almost shoved down my throat. Okay, we're going to go back again. Our goals. We have a positive impact on the epidemic of fatherlessness in America. We restore families by empowering absent fathers to be responsible family leaders. We stop the cycle of family violence and brokenness in order to improve the lives of children. That's a big call. That's a big ask. And that's what caught me. And the fact that you, once again, we're not afraid to say, and yeah, we're Christian based.
No
Yeah.
question.
You know, we're saying, and you're a minister.
Yes.
You know, we're saying, take the Lord Jesus Christ into my life.
Yes.
And this is going, and I just like that because a lot of people don't do that. There's a fear of that nowadays. You know, politically, it's not cool. But you're
Well,
saying,
let me say this: we don't proselytize. That's just how we walk. We walk circumspectly with that belief system, and I believe what we model to these individuals is what they reach back for. They
Yeah.
said, "I want what you got."
walk the walk, don't talk the talk.
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
You get nowhere. You know, somebody, you know, I'm not, you know, I told you not institutional, but I had people come into my door saying, you know, you should come to our church. You should, you know, and blah, 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 here's a Bible and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, no, you're not, you know, no. And there's one guy in my neighborhood who I still am quite friendly with, never pressed me on it, even to this day.
Yes. Yes.
We're
Yes.
just friends.
Yes.
There it is.
And I watch
Yes.
his life and I
Yes.
say, I want to be like him.
Yep.
Yes.
But I can't take that last step.
Right.
I don't know why.
When you're
not gonna
ready,
fight
you
it.
will.
But again, believe that somebody believes.
Yes.
And I also know through the program that I believe profoundly.
Yes.
That
Yes.
if had I not found that,
Yes.
I would be
Would not be here.
on my ass.
That's right.
So anyway,
That's
let's.
right.
So one of the things I will just say, we teach a fathering class. We've probably our 6th year where we have 12 to 13 men in a room for 13 weeks. I wrote a book. Out of the book, we built a curriculum, and the curriculum is taught by 2 of our staff.
What's the name of your book?
Becoming Dads. Becoming Dads. It was just my journey about becoming a father, responsible father, right?
Where can that be found?
Right now, I think it's Amazon.
And you can also go to our website,
Okay, what's the website?
aboutdads.org, and you can call us 206-722-3137.
Say that all again.
206-722-3137. Let us know you'd like a book, and we'll send you one. Actually, we're not even selling the books at this point.
And this is website again?
Website, www.aboutdads.org.
Great.
One of
But
the
you know,
last things.
pardon me, I picked up, I don't know, I have it on my
The audio.
Audible.
Yes, yes.
It is.
You know,
It's available.
that is.
Yeah, you know, and it's available on Kindle.
Yes.
By you can get it to your tablet.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So one of the things I wanted to share in closing is that we have this graduation ceremony. I think our next graduation, where we have 12 to 14 guys graduating this fatherhood class, and we invite their families in.
Oh, cool.
They need to be able to enjoy the graduating fathers of these classes. And there's an exercise that I do with them at the end of the class, at the end of the graduation, is I walk in front of each man and I look him in his eyes with my hands on his shoulder and I say, "You are my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased." Mm-hmm. And that's what
cool.
God
cool.
said to his son Jesus at the
know
start of his
one.
ministry.
Yep, I know
right?
that one.
Well, here's the deal. These guys have never been validated. Mm-hmm. How do I know that? It's because a friend of mine stood in my house when I was 40 plus years old and validated me. And I asked him, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Marvin, because you've never been validated." And I've never forgot that. And when that happened, I turned around, called my 2 youngest sons in and validated them, right? Because I didn't want them to spend the next 42 years walking around in the desert with nowhere to go.
That's
and
important.
so we try to do the same thing to these fathers. And I had one guy drying his eyes out. He said, "I've never been hugged by a man before." That just set me back. So listen.
And you're offering some sort of a female side of that.
Most definitely. I'm the mother hen of the pack, and
good.
I just sit, and I guess the way I talk to them makes them want to shed their deepest, darkest secrets, because I always tell them this: you come clean or just stay away dirty, because we can't heal if you want to hold on to everything you're carrying right now. So let it go. Let us listen to it. Let us walk with you. We'll cry with you. We'll pray with you. We'll love on you. What I say is love the hell out of you.
Well, now, that's a, if I met a girl and she said that to me, I'd be like, I know we're going to have at least a good week together.
Hey, listen, there's another thing that Jeanette offers up in our office, and that is, and we did this some years ago. I followed her lead. She offered a whole lot of things for me that I had missing, and it was because her father. So I always tell people, I got the blessing. When her father poured into her, I got that blessing. He left that for me. And I try to encourage guys to think along those lines. But here's the deal. We usually invite a father and a mother into our office, and their kid comes with them. And I'll have the male in my office. She'll have the female in her office. And we'll watch the kid, because I keep toys in there. He'll run to the mom. "Mom, look." Then he'll run out there to the dad. "Dad, look." And back and forth. And Jeanette has said, "So you're going to tell me after watching that kid doesn't need both of you?" And it just opens up a whole nother frame of thought process. And so I credit to my wife.
With, I guess I read your website. I loved it. And I hope you just continue it. I think it's an awesome thing. Having lived outside of a nasty West Philly thing, it was very obvious to me at a young age. And I agree with you.
Amen.
I believe that fatherhood, I was once told as a father, you raise them till they're about 10, then you parent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to parent.
Yes.
That's the hard part.
Wow.
That is a hard part.
I just believe that's true.
Yes.
Because then you have to start being the bad guy.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, let's conclude with this. Marvin, Jeanette, wow. I'm so glad you came in.
Thank you.
I really am.
Thank you.
And I think anybody out there who is suffering with the concept of fatherlessness, wow. If not through dads, find something else.
Amen.
Yeah.
Just get it.
Amen.
Get it.
You got to get it. And with that in mind, I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, if
Thank
I can
you.
leave a word, it's this. A father's job is to prepare his children for a future that he will never see.
I like that.
I'll close with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
And so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank
Our
you.
pleasure.
Okay, great. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.